Now today I'll show you what's in my backpack. Hey guys, welcome to the high ground. My name is Fabio and today I'll give you a rundown of everything that I have in my backpack when I'm out mountaineering, may it be privately or guiding. Now, as I usually say at the beginning of my videos, I went through the Swiss mountain guide course, but I got sidelined by an injury before I could do the final exam. But this is what we had in here during the course and also during my practice years. And this will likely also be the final setup that I will bring with me later in my life. Maybe a few words on my backpack. This is an Arc'teryx FL45 backpack. As you can see, the backpack is not completely full. I have the same backpack as the 35 version. 35 at Arc'teryx means that it actually has 28 liters capacity and is extendable to 35. 45 means it has 35 liters of capacity and is extendable to 45 when I pull out the sleeve. You should get everything into this backpack. For me, it was always a little bit a mark that I want to hit, that I don't have to attach anything outside of the backpack. Of course, if you're out for multi-day tours and you have overnight stuff, you might need to fix the tent and the sleeping mat outside of the backpack, but that should more or less be it. Also, a brief remark, I don't know what's going on in the airspace above Zurich right now. I'm a fair bit out in nature, as you can see. The airport is actually 20 miles to the east from here, but it seems to be pretty busy in the skies today, so we will have to live with the occasional airplane noises. Another thing that you have to keep in mind is that I don't show you the things that I have on my body, right? So the pants that I'm wearing, etc., they're obviously not in the backpack. So keep that in mind. I made a video about layering. If you're interested in that one, I'll link it somewhere up here, and there you can see what I would wear on which occasion. Okay, so first let's start with the outside. That's fairly easy. I have my ice axe here, and ice axes are a super big topic in it themselves. This is just the one that I use, the AirTech Evolution. I'm not going into that, but you will of course need one. And the next thing that I have on the outside of my backpack is sunscreen, because that's also something that I use quite often. Skin cancer is just not a very nice thing, and yeah, I try to avoid it. And that's already it for the outside. Everything else is inside of my backpack, and it's inside a single compartment backpack, so it's really everything on top of each other. Now, when I pack my backpack, I try to put stuff in a certain order, and I want to have the stuff on top that I will need first. Now, I'm not actually going on a climb right now on a mountaineering tour, so it was a little bit hard to determine what to put on top, but I will show you the system. Now, first of all is my helmet. This is not necessarily on top because I'll need it first, but it's one of the first things that I will need, and it gets squeezed fairly easy because it's one of those lightweight helmets. I have it on top, afterwards I have it on my head, and then I'm good. The next thing I have in there is actually the rope. Now, rope is of course dependent on the route that you're going. I generally bring a 50-meter rope. It can also be a 40-meter or a 60-meter rope, depending on the route. Thickness of the rope is, again, a whole topic in itself. Our minimum requirement when guiding is 9.5 millimeters, but as said, that's a different topic. The next thing that I have in here is my climbing harness. And the reason that the climbing harness is next is that I need it to store anything that I get out of the backpack afterwards. You can see this is an Arc'teryx climbing harness. I like that one a lot. It might be that I bring a super lightweight harness, but generally this is the one that I'll have with me. Directly mounted to the harness is a Prusik sling. I always have it on there because it always comes with me. The next thing will be my slings. And you can see I have an ordinary sling here. And as you see, I'm not a big fan of braiding them. I just coil them up and put them on a carabiner. I never use gear carabiners. I always use full strength carabiners. So I have 2 additional carabiners with me. And this is a special sling. It's the Mammoth Magic Sling. It's just a very heavy duty sling. I don't want to get too deep into this stuff, but generally this will be the one with which I do almost all the work. And this is the lightweight one for backup. Depending on the climb, if I have to build complicated belays or stuff, then I would obviously bring more slings, bring longer slings. These are both 120 centimeters. So I think that's 50 inches, something like that. And yeah, those 2 will be sufficient for an ordinary climb. Next thing, we have the standard carabiner stuff. I usually go with 5 carabiners, 1 tri-lock carabiner and 4 ordinary locking screwing carabiners, and additionally 1 D carabiner. This is actually not textbook, but my personal safety backup. Textbook-wise, we would only bring 5. As you can see, I prefer petzl carabiners because they have the red indicator if they are closed or not. I can tell you a funny story in that regard. I mean, at least now it is funny. I took a fall at ice climbing, what you never want to do. And it was maybe a 7-8 meter fall. And I lost an ice axe, and why it happened is basically ice broke off below me. And then I was hanging there. I had to climb back up, build a belay, get my body up. And since I hit myself in the face with my ice tool pretty badly, we decided to go down and rappel down. That said, we built the rappelling station and rappelled down. And down at the ground, I noticed that I didn't close my carabiner when rappelling. And this is generally something that I always do. It's an automatism. I lock them and I screw them closed, right? But they're out of the stress after the fall, and then climbing up and actually being relieved then that we go down, so the adrenaline was going down. I didn't pay as much attention anymore. And then I swapped my carabiners just to those who indicate if they're still open. The next thing I'll have with me are extendable quick draws. I hardly ever bring normal quick draws on mountaineering routes. I almost always use the extendable ones. It also gives me the backup of having additional slings when needed. I bring at least 2. If the route needs it, of course more. This goes very closely together with the protection I bring in terms of camelots and ice screws. We will get to that a little bit later. And all of that goes onto my climbing harness, obviously. Then we go into a little bit more specialized guiding gear. What I always bring is my little belay building set. Now, this belay building set consists of cord that's 6 or 7 meters, so that I can build a lot of belays. That can be V-treads, that can also be a belay around a rock to upsile from it. I have a V-fret tool that allows me to actually build a V-fret or an A-fret in ice on a glacier. So consequently, I bring that when I'm on a glacier. And I bring a knife because I need a way to cut the cordage, and a knife can always be, well, beneficial, right? It can be good to have one. This is the Petzl Sparta. It's specifically made to cut cordage and rope and sling material and that stuff. You never know when it comes in handy. This also goes to the back of my climbing harness. The next thing I have in here is what I call my pulley set. It's actually the Petzl Crevasse Rescue set. You can buy it as a set. So this one consists of a D carabiner, a T-block, and a micro traction. The original Crevasse Rescue set from Petzl also includes another roll that is not progress capturing. I don't know what the name is, but I hardly ever bring that one. These two things enable me to either rescue somebody out of a crevasse myself, so I don't need any other people from the group to support me with that. But it also enables me to self-rescue out of a crevasse, to pull a client or a climbing partner up on a route. So I also bring that when climbing. And yeah, it's a very handy little set, and it makes rescue a lot easier. So this comes with me as well. If you're generally interested in pulley systems and all that stuff, I made a video about them. I will also link that somewhere up here. And now we get into the area of protection. And there it will be highly dependent on the route, what I bring. Let's assume we have a route that starts with a glacier section, and then you climb up a rocky section, and then you're at the summit, right? Then the next thing that I will have on top are ice screws. If I'm on a normal glacier, on an ordinary glacier, I will just bring 2 ice screws. The blue ones from Petzl, they have an intermediate length. I'm not a big believer in super lightweight screws. They are a consideration if you really climb difficult routes, but for ordinary mountaineering, for me, I just like the steel ones, not the aluminum ones, and that's it for me. But you can obviously decide what you want to do with them. You can carry them either on a specific carrying tool that is made for ice screws. You can also carry them on a carabiner. That's up to you. I personally prefer the carry tool. Okay, and yeah, of course, if you have to climb vast sections of ice, and if you're not sure if you are able to climb it, then you, or if you're not able to climb it, but if you don't want to free solo it, then you have to bring the ice screws. These ice screws are with me also if I don't have to climb ice, if I'm just traversing a glacier, because if you have a glacier that is not covered with snow anymore, but you're walking on the pure ice, you don't really have the option to build a T-anchor with your ice axe if you have to pull somebody out of a crevasse, but you will need ice screws, and then you will need to have 2. Okay. Oh yeah, and of course they will also enable me to build a V-tread or something like that. Now, assuming that we will have a rocky area, I also bring cams. Again, here in Switzerland, most of the ordinary mountaineering routes will have bolts on sections where you need to climb or belay. That's a nice thing. I still like bringing them. As you can see, those are the Omega Link cam. They have the advantage that they can cover a wider, I'll show it with this one, a wider variety of crack sizes, because you can use them like this, right? But you can also open them fully up and they will get smaller. So you can really push them into small cracks, but also in fairly large ones, and they will fit. Same for this one. So I bring these. I like these a lot, and they're almost always with me when I'm out mountaineering. Of course, if I do a tour where I actually have to put in belay and protection, I will bring a full set of camelots. I prefer the black diamond ones. It's up to you what you use. And of course, worst case, or if it is really a difficult climb, I would also bring nuts and hexes. But then we're actually out of the ordinary mountaineering stuff and really in steeper area. Okay, and last but not least, I would have my crampons in here. So I would put that all on my climbing harness, have my helmet on, and then I put my crampons on. Now there is a discussion to be had if I want to have them a little bit more towards the top, especially if I would want to traverse steeper snow slopes on my way to the entry of the climb, so on the approach. But I generally say if I need to put on crampons because it's so steep, then I will have to put the other guys onto the rope and somehow belay them. And then we're not in the area. So then we have to put on the full setup anyway, right? If it is only a steep snow field, then I would maybe cut steps or something like that with my ice axe, and we're good. So yeah, these come in here. I generally transfer them in that little bag from Petzl because it protects my backpack and I can take them out fairly easily. Okay, so much for the hardware. And now we get into the additional stuff that I bring. We have been taught to use the Beal Escaper. A lot of mountain guides in Switzerland use it as a standard tool. To be honest, I didn't need it that often yet, so for me it's an emergency tool that will enable me to rappel 40 meters, 50 meters or 60 meters at once, right? But I wouldn't necessarily intentionally use it just because I'm not current with it enough to really use it all the time, and I'm not sure if I have enough experience to really say, hey, yeah, this is 100% reliable, that I will just have the incremental risk by using it 200 times a year that something goes wrong. I'm just not sure, but that's on me and not on the tool. I definitely bring it just as a backup so that I can rappel larger or longer pitches. So the sun was coming out, so I had to adjust the camera. The next thing that I will bring is my navigation and positional backup. So generally I will know the route that I'm going to climb quite well. And I will also go up the evening before the actual climb and explore the approach if there is any. So I don't have to navigate from the beginning because I have the data from the previous evening or previous day, how the approach actually works. Still, it is important to bring navigational stuff with you. And that's something that I have in this waterproof pack sack. There is obviously a map. There is a compass. There is my GPS. And there is a headlamp. If I do the approach in the darkness, then this headlamp will be with me. If I do it when it's already light, the headlamp will be in here. This is also the point where I want to talk about communication devices, but there it is really different what you can do and what you should bring. I generally bring at least a Garmin InReach. The Garmin InReach, I find it to be a very useful tool, but there are also regions in the world where it might be more handy to bring some kind of radio. So this is really something that you have to check out while you're on the tour, respectively, not while you're on the tour, but when you know the specific tour and when you're planning for it. Next thing I have in here is a pack for food and drink. I like to put it in something like that because often at the huts where we start in the Swiss Alps, you get the sandwiches to take away or something like that. I have my bottle here, and as I said, I have a snack here. Depending on the route, I might bring more or less food. Now, if we're talking about multi-day routes, where you will stay out in the mountains, you will need to bring a tent, etc. I would pack my bag slightly different. I would put all the overnight stuff on the into the bottom of the pack and then layer everything else that I showed you on top of that. So that really when I reach our bivvy or our camping spot, that I have then I can then go down in my backpack and have the overnight stuff there. Okay, and then down here I have additional clothing that consists of backup sunglasses. I generally bring them because slope blindness is not a nice thing and you can get snow blind within a day. And I bring a puffy jacket. Now, the additional clothing I bring, the insulation, will depend on what I'm already wearing, right? On some routes, I might already be wearing such a puffy jacket, then I will bring a thicker down jacket. This is also where I might bring backup gear that is waterproof or soft shell jackets. I hardly ever bring hard shell jackets for mountaineering. But please be aware that this is an example for a jacket that I might bring, but it really depends on the temperatures and what I'm doing, which type of jacket I bring. And in this jacket, I always have an additional hat, right, that keeps my head warm. And I have an additional pair of gloves. So I don't have my only gloves in there, I have an additional pair of gloves. And here these are Hestra gloves, but it's also possible when it is a cold climb or something like that, that I bring actual mittens. And below that, far down, I have my first aid pack. And the first aid pack has anything that a first aid pack needs to have. I have stop the bleed stuff. I have stuff against blisters. I have also a boo-boo part in here. If somebody gets mildly hurt, if somebody doesn't have a big injury, I also have an emergency blankets in here, emergency bivvies, and all that good stuff. Now, you might criticize that I have the first aid pack all the way down in my backpack. The reason is, if I have it down in my backpack and it's not a big backpack, then I will never have to search for it. I can, in case something happens, I can take the backpack, push my hand all the way down and to the bottom, grab it, rip it out. I don't care if anything falls out, right? Well, I might lose my backup sunglasses in an emergency. Well, that might happen, but for me it's more important to really have that quickly. I can't fix it somewhere outside because it might get ripped away when I climb. So I have it in and down because then I always know where it is. And that's already everything that I have in my backpack. Now, one thing I want to mention is signaling. So of course we have radio communication, or we have communication covered, but I didn't tell you that I take something with me, for example, to light a fire in an emergency. The reason for that is that the most climbs in Switzerland already start above the vegetation line. So what generally happens is you approach a hut or a bivvy, you sleep on that hut or bivvy in relative safety, and then from there you start the big climb. And even if you're going up to Mont Blanc or you do a little bit of the wilder routes, you won't have vegetation up there with which you could actually entertain a fire. And if there is no stuff to light a fire, then why should I bring fire steel or something like that? That's of course different if I have a cooker with me, then I need something to light a cooker. But for emergency purposes, I don't bring fire stuff. Okay, that's already it. I make sure that I always pack my bag so that there isn't a lot of air in there, because otherwise you will never get everything in your backpack. And that's it. So I would say, let's get the stuff back into the backpack. And we have our bag packed again. Cinch that down. Put the ice axe on it, and we're good to go. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you like that, please give us a thumbs up. Remember to follow the channel. Put in the comments what you bring, if you think that I have forgotten something, if I was totally unresponsible with the stuff that I've put in my backpack. I'm really interested what you guys bring to your outdoor ventures. As said, this is for mountaineering. We're not talking about climbing, ice climbing, etc. But I could do a video like this for these types of mountain activities as well, if you're interested. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate your time watching this channel, and I'll see you next time.